Morning, everybody. How you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. I'm Sean Butler. There's the one you all came to see. Bugsy Malone on the sniff, on the march, looking for squirrels. She had an altercation a minute ago with another dog. Territorial disputes, I'd imagine. But everyone got out of it unharmed. It's good to see you all. I hope you're happy and healthy doing the things you love. Please do me a favour like you always do, guys. Hit the like button for me on the video. Hit the subscribe on the channel if you haven't already. Join the 17,000 people that have gone before. Welcome back to them. Welcome to the new. If that is you, then hello. Hit the notification bell and drop a comment. Let me know your thoughts on today's topic. And you know what? I wake up this morning, guys, sit down at my desk and I look on Google for Tottenham news. And the first article that pops up was from The Sun. That bastion of journalistic integrity. And they're talking about Richarlison, a transfer story. And I had to consider whether or not I was going to be shameless enough that I have certain levels of shamelessness that I was going to put it out to you lot. And I probably landed on yes, if I'm honest, because that's the sort of guy that I am. I was prepared to do it anyway. But then I read through the article and I realised that actually they were just kind of paraphrasing, reporting on another story that came out of the Telegraph. And the Telegraph is a credible, credit-worthy, journalistic integrity-based news venue. And so I thought, this is good enough for them, it's good enough for me. So let's talk about it. And that is Richarlison. £60 million Tottenham man Richarlison, the number 9 for Brazil. Or at least he was, until he got substituted at half-time against Bolivia this weekend. Apparently, after missing an absolute sitter, his substitution resulted in him once again showing his emotional side. But the story said that Al Ittihad from the Saudi Arabian League are interested, have been interested, and will once again be interested in taking Richarlison from Tottenham to Saudi Arabia. And the story essentially is that Al Ittihad spent the final 10 days of the transfer window, of their transfer window that was open for a week or so, or 10 days after ours, trying to convince Mo Salah of Liverpool fame to go and join Saudi Arabia, to join Al Ittihad. And they were apparently willing to bid, what was it, £210 million or something crazy in the end. It was ultimately rejected by Liverpool. And so in the last hours, Saudi Arabia turned their attention to Richarlison. He is second on their list of desirable number 9s, or desirable forwards. Obviously they ran out of time, but allegedly the intermediaries of both clubs got together and spoke about it. No bid was officially introduced or entered. There's no indication of what the bid would have been. There's no indication of Tottenham's willingness to sell, Richarlison's willingness to leave. But there is interest there. And in a nutshell, the story says that this time in January, they will go back and try again to access and convince Liverpool to sell Mo Salah, convince Mo Salah to go over there and be, as one of the greatest, if not the greatest, Muslim football player in the world. He would be the kind of linchpin, the king of the kind of Saudi Football Pro League visible experience. He will be their star boy, the poster boy, whatever you want to call it. And Liverpool will have to face probably increased bids. At some point, Liverpool will have their head turned. Whether it's going to take 300 million or 250, at some point the money will be too much to ignore. It will be interesting to see whether or not Mo Salah will also be able to turn down the package that is presented to him, and I'm sure it will be eye-watering, mouth-watering, insane. But this is what Saudi Arabia can do. They have, essentially limitless wealth. They're not bound by the same financial fair play rules, as far as I'm aware, as European clubs. And so they have access to making these sorts of moves. And Liverpool have a history of eventually finding that a bid that comes in for one of their star players is too good to turn down. They did it with Coutinho. £150 million, I believe, was the number. And they sold him for peak value and went and bought Alisson, the goalkeeper, who's still their goalkeeper today, their star goalkeeper, one of the best goalkeepers in the world, and Virgil van Dijk, who has been and continues to be one of the best centre-backs in the world. So Liverpool are pretty good at recycling the money, finding peak value, and you would imagine that at some point there will be a bid that will be accepted in January. However, if it turns out to ultimately be unsuccessful, then according to the Telegraph, the plan would be for Al Ittihad again to turn back to Richarlison and go in that direction. Richarlison, for me, what has he played? 40 games for Tottenham, scored about 4 goals, 2 in the Champions League for Marseille in the same game, 1 against Liverpool last year at the end of the season, and then 1 against Fulham in the Carabao Cup. It's not a good enough return. 1 in 10 is not a good enough return. And look, the guy is, an emotional player who's super low on confidence and super low on form, but does have the legacy in global brand awareness of being Brazil's number 9, and is off the back of a very successful World Cup that was taking place in that part of the world. And so his reputation potentially in and around that part of the world is based maybe more on his achievements and accolades and recent form for Brazil than it is for Tottenham. I'm speculating on that point, but they have identified allegedly that he is their second choice, and it'll be interesting. I'd like to know your thoughts. For me, you know how I feel about Richarlison. I don't think he's the right player for Tottenham. I think he's a very cool human being. I like people that are, kind of volatile with emotions, like heart on their sleeve type of guys. I like that sort of thing in a human being. It is always going to be interesting being around people like that. But as a football player, I'm not a huge fan. I wasn't a huge fan at Watford, but he got a massive move to Everton. I wasn't impressed particularly at Everton either, and I certainly wasn't impressed when we were linked with him last summer, and I haven't been impressed with what he's done in a Tottenham shirt. And so for me personally, if the bid was to come in from Saudi Arabia in January, how would I feel about it? I'd be okay with it. I'd more than happily see the back of him, wish him well. To me, I just don't really see it as being feasible for a number of reasons. As I've already mentioned, I think that if Saudi Arabia, if Al Ittihad are that desperate, that keen to get their guy Mo Salah, and it looks like they really are, then I think eventually they will find enough money that Liverpool will be forced to accept. And I think that they could probably also convince Mo Salah, having achieved what he has in the game, to go over there and be the poster boy for their revolution. But if not, that doesn't necessarily mean that Richarlison would ultimately want to leave Tottenham to go there. Question marks would have to be asked about whether or not he would maintain his place in the Brazil team if he was playing Saudi Arabian Pro League football. There's no disrespect to the league, but it is a relatively new concept, and despite the amount of money that's being thrown at it, the credibility of the league is still probably unproven. I know Jordan Henderson, for example, managed to get into the England team despite also moving out to Saudi Arabia. I'm not entirely educated right now on whether or not the transition of a lot of the top players that have gone to Saudi Arabia have or has negatively impacted any of their international careers, but we'll keep an eye on that one. We'll see how it goes. Does he want to move out there? If a bid was to come in, would Daniel Levy accept the bid? What would the bid have to be? According to Transfer Market, it's about £45 million is the valuation on the player. And you have to bake in that, first and foremost, you've got is the fact that it's January. It's very difficult to get replacements. The second thing is that they're going to spend the entire first half or whatever of the window trying to convince Mo Salah to come. And so any move for Richarlison that was to materialise probably wouldn't materialise until late, which would then give Tottenham very little time to be able to go and find a replacement, and you would need a replacement of some ilk. Where do you go to get a number 9? There really isn't that many in the market, and obviously the amplification of transfer values that we saw this summer will probably only continue in January. You get that additional 10% bump because it's January, But also, you know, who are you going to try and replace? Gift Orban, you know, you've got to imagine that the reason why we didn't sign him is because the asking price at Ghent was already probably overly inflated ahead of true value for where he was at. But if he continues to have a stellar start to the season, then his price will probably be 65 million or something similar by January. And so, are Tottenham the sort of club that are going to sell a Richarlison for 40 to go and buy someone who is a high potential but high risk player like a Gift Orban? And if not him, and you want to go and get someone that's more established, how much are they going to cost? And who are the players? It's not easy. The number 9 role is in short supply and high demand. Similar to left-footed, left-sided centre-backs. Short supply, high demand equals crazy, inflated transfer prices. On paper though, I don't see enough value in Richarlison at the club in this system, with him on his current confidence levels and current form. And I don't see a long enough runway for him to figure it out. And so, on paper, I'm okay with the transfer. I'd like to think that we could probably get 50 million quid, and if you could get the vast majority of your money back on him, you'd bite your hand off and go again and chalk it up to a bad choice 12 months ago. But I just don't think it's going to be that easy. I think there's a hell of a lot of hurdles and stumbling blocks in the way. And I don't really believe that the story's going to materialise or manifest itself with an official bid coming in that would be too good to turn down from Tottenham and Daniel Levy and Richarlison's perspective. Let me know your thoughts though, guys. We shall see. We shall see. If you did want to let him go, what was your number that you would accept, and what would you do with the money? How much more would you need to add to that pile and go in a different direction? Blajovic, Orban, El Yawahi, who, where, when? Like, subscribe and comment, guys, and as always, bye bye.